Some stories don't start with kindness. Some start with cruelty so sharp it cuts through the heart before the healing ever begins. This is one of those stories. It begins with a single dad named Mark, a quiet, hard-working man who spent most of his time fixing appliances, raising his little boy, and minding his own business. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, and he certainly wasn't someone who floated easily into conversations. And maybe that's why a few of his coworkers thought it would be funny to set him up on a blind date, a date they never expected him to treat with dignity. Before we dive into this emotional journey, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment to stay connected with more powerful stories like this. You're watching your channel name, where kindness, compassion, and real human moments come to life. Mark didn't have much time for dating. Between work and caring for his 8-year-old son Ethan, life felt like a constant balancing act. His coworkers knew that. Some felt sympathy for him, but others saw an easy target. One Friday afternoon during lunch break, the guys in the shop started teasing Mark again. "Come on, man," one of them laughed. "You gotta get out. Live a little." Mark shrugged, smiling politely. "Maybe one day. Ethan keeps me busy." But they kept pushing, and instead of helping him, instead of truly wanting him to find love or happiness, they decided to set up something they called a surprise blind date. "Trust us," they said. "She's perfect for you." But behind Mark's back they were laughing. Because the date wasn't meant to help him. It was meant to humiliate him. Her name was Lila, a gentle, soft-spoken kindergarten teacher who had struggled with her weight most of her life. She wasn't obese because of laziness. She had medical conditions, emotional struggles, and a heart bigger than almost anyone you'd ever meet. She didn't know the date was a joke either. She thought it was a real chance at connection. On Saturday evening, Mark arrived at the restaurant the guys told him to go to. It was a simple family place. Quiet, nothing fancy. He wore his one good shirt, combed his hair neatly, and brought the small bouquet of grocery store flowers Ethan helped him pick. Across the room, Lila sat alone at a table, nervously adjusting her sweater sleeves, her eyes flicking toward the door every few seconds. When Mark approached her table, she looked stunned. "Are you Mark?" she asked softly. He smiled, handing her the flowers. "I am. You must be Lila." Her cheeks turned pink as she accepted the bouquet. "They're beautiful." "Thank you." If Mark noticed anything about her appearance, he didn't show it. He didn't flinch. He didn't judge. He simply sat down and treated her with the warmth he wished the world had shown him more often. Meanwhile, in the parking lot, 3 of his coworkers sat in a truck, watching through the window, laughing like they were watching a prank show. Inside, Mark listened as Lila talked about her students, her love for painting, and her dreams of traveling someday. She was nervous at first, expecting ridicule. She'd had experiences before where men walked out on her before drinks even arrived. But Mark wasn't like that. He leaned in, asked questions, laughed genuinely, and shared pieces of his own life. Not the embarrassing parts his coworkers joked about, but the real parts, the struggles, the fears, the hopes. When their food came, Lila paused, noticing his gentleness, the quiet sincerity in his eyes. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Of course. Did they tell you about me?" Mark frowned slightly. "They said you were kind, and that we might get along." She looked down at her hands. "That's not usually what people say." He tilted his head. "Well, that's what I see." Outside, the coworkers' smiles faded as they realized the prank wasn't working the way they imagined. 2 hours later, when Mark and Lila stepped out of the restaurant, the guys burst out of the truck, laughing loudly. "Yo, Mark!" one shouted. "How was the date, man? You enjoy your surprise?" Lila froze. Instantly, she understood. Her face fell and her eyes glistened as the cruel truth settled in. It was a setup, a joke, a trap to embarrass both of them. Mark turned slowly, his jaw tightening. "What are you guys doing here? We wanted to see if you'd actually go through with it." The tallest one smirked. "Didn't expect you to last an hour, dude." Another pointed rudely at Lila. "You deserve a medal for making it the whole dinner." Lila stepped back, holding her arms around herself, trying not to cry. And that's when something in Mark snapped. Not with anger, but with strength. "You know," he said, his voice steady, "I feel sorry for you." The men stared at him, confused. "You set this up as a joke," Mark continued, "but the joke isn't on me, and it's definitely not on her. It's on you." He stepped slightly in front of Lila, shielding her from their stares. Because you don't see what you're missing. You don't see the courage it takes to show up for a date when the world has not always been kind. You don't see the strength it takes to keep your heart open when people judge you for things that aren't their business. The laughter stopped, and you don't see how lucky you'd be to have even one person in your life who carries the kind of kindness she carries. One of the guys scoffed. Man, come on. No, Mark interrupted firmly. You come on. You think being a single dad makes me desperate? You think she deserves to be mocked because she doesn't fit your idea of beauty? Let me ask you this. When was the last time any of you treated someone with actual respect? Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable silence. Lila wiped her eyes, overwhelmed, not by the cruelty she expected, but by the kindness she never saw coming. Mark turned back to her gently. Let me walk you to your car. She nodded, voice trembling. Thank you. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, he whispered. You did nothing wrong. As they walked away, the men stood there speechless. None of them had expected him to defend her. None of them had expected his words to hit so deeply. That night, after Mark walked her to her car, Lila hesitated before getting in. Why were you so kind to me? She asked quietly. He smiled, a little shy. Because someone taught me that people deserve kindness most when the world gives them the least. Her eyes softened. Your son? He nodded. He's been through a lot, and I promised myself I'd be the kind of man he could look up to. Lila's lips curved into a small, heartfelt smile. Well, he would be proud of you tonight. They exchanged numbers before parting ways, not because he felt sorry for her, but because he genuinely wanted to know her better. Over the next few weeks, they talked often. Slowly, carefully, something real grew between them, not forced, not rushed, not born out of pity, but built on kindness, honesty, and mutual respect. And the men at work? They never pulled a stunt like that again. Some even apologized when they realized the weight of what they had done. Kindness has a strange power. It can silence cruelty. It can rewrite a moment that was meant to hurt. And sometimes, it can start a love story no one saw coming. In the end, Mark didn't just stand up for Lila. He stood up for the idea that people deserve dignity no matter what, and that one act of kindness changed everything. May this story remind us all to lead with compassion, even when others don't. Because kindness isn't weakness. It's the quiet strength that makes the world better, one choice at a time.